Welcome back to the shop. Today we are working on some old video clips that we've had laying around, and we thought we'd put them together. They are about the V6 2.8 liter Cologne V6 that we have for the Racecar Capri that we haven't really had much time to work on because we've been busy doing other stuff like diesel trucks and cars and all sorts of other stuff. So if you guys want to see what we're doing with this Cologne V6, stick around, click like, subscribe, leave us a comment below. Well, welcome back to Lucore Automotive Services. Today we're doing more Capri stuff. This is the third engine that we have picked up, or the third of three engines that we have picked up for this project. I'm going to tear this one down, get the heads off so we can take the heads over to the machine shop. Hopefully they are virgin heads so we can put our big valves in them. And then we can go from there. We have determined that the smog heads off the 76 are identical heads to these except for the EGR ports, which you can plug off and seal off. Essentially have the exact same performing cylinder head, but if I can do early heads without having to do more modifications, then great. So we'll get this thing apart, see what we have to work with. Do some cleaning. Hey, there's no thermostat in there. Oh, there's a whole bunch of... It's a mouse house is what that is. That's gross. Well, that explains all the bird seed on this engine. I haven't found a mouse yet, but maybe we will. I think it's going to need a new water pump. Come on, snug fit. Haha. There we go. This was gonna break. Oh, it broke loose. That's good. Got more mice in there. Probably. Is that where my thermostat goes? There's my thermostat. That makes more sense. Oof, I don't think we're going to be able to reuse him. Oh, we're going to need to do some cleaning. Yeah, just pop it in that car, it'll be fine. That's completely, the passage is completely plugged. Oh. Oh, that's not great. There we go. Yeah, we got some cleaning to do on this engine. Well, I guess I can worry about that later. I really just need the heads off of this today. But how do you not start poking at stuff? It's kind of like when you have some bubble wrap in front of you. Oh, let's take off our carby. Offenhauser dual port. I may not get COVID, but I may get the black plague from whatever's in here. Okay, let's pop this intake off. Bypass hose off. Oh, look at those old style clamps. Those have probably been on there since the day this thing was born. Not too bad. Oh my god, that's heavy.
The cast?
You drank oil?
No, I haven't yet. It's cast. No, it's not cast. It's aluminum. Feel how heavy that is. It's deceiving.
Yeah.
It's not magnetic. It looks like aluminum, but it is heavy, but it's a big chunk of aluminum. I was not expecting it to weigh that much. Look at how small those holes are.
That's what I was saying. How thick this is in here. Like there's no reason for this to even be like there. Like just because this is right there, right? Just get all that shit out of there.
I don't know why they would do that, except for maybe for sealing. We're either going to make it better or we're going to make it worse.
You have to look at your.
But I mean, even.
I mean, it only needs to seal around the outside, right?
Right.
It's always encouraging when I walk in and I hear that phrase. We're either going to make it better or we're going to make it worse.
Good morning.
Oh, good. What are we messing with today?
Well, look at the port flow in this intake.
It's tiny. It's a little restricted, yeah. Yeah.
So
There's so much extra.
So the big hole feeds all six, and the little hole, the
Feeds
little
all
pair of
six
holes
individually.
feeds all six.
Are
So why is this and all this in here?
Are you getting ready to modify the $1,000 intake manifold?
Thinking about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so we're on the same
Well, I was
page.
saying Dremel all that
Well,
crap out of there.
Why?
Yeah,
Why
there's no
would
reason
you?
for it.
Yeah.
Hey, Kevin.
I don't even understand.
Hello.
why-
Oh, you sound so excited about it.
$1,000 intake manifold.
How you doing?
I'm aware.
Okay, just so we're all
Oh, it's just
$1,000 intake manifold.
Don't touch it.
Just so we're all on the same page. $1,000 intake manifold.
Well, actually, it was only $300.
You got one?
It doesn't mean it's not worth $1,000. Because we paid less.
Yeah, I think this truck that I got for work needs some.
Take that shit back to the dealer who inspected it.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. All right, let's pop this in. Intake them out. Intake out. Intake off. Oh, well, that came off easy. That wasn't a struggle. Oh. Yeah, there's washers there. Let's save those washers. Oh, the other half of our $1,000 intake manifold. Oh, more mouse bits. Oh, there it went. So nasty. Lord. Gross. Put that on the floor so I can trip over it later. That coolant port's full of mouse bits. Wow, we're looking pretty good in there. Oh, there's that bolt I dropped down in there. Let's grab that out of there. Yeah, I guess it's time to have Snapperhead give me some new sockets. That guy's about to start rounding. That guy's about to start rounding off bolts instead of removing them. They don't have to be broken to get them exchanged. Just same. So I'm not baking cookies. I am using cookie sheets because I can buy these at the dollar store for $1. Well, I used to be able to buy these for $1 at the dollar store. Now it's probably the $2 store. But they work really good for holding parts when I tear stuff down. So I use cheap stuff I find at the dollar store. Because I'm cheap. And they work. Some people say there's a specific bolt that goes in the center, but I don't see that. All these bolts look the same. So I would say that's a wives' tale. Let's go ahead and pull the head bolts out. All the head bolts are the same. Those don't look to have seats in them, but I might be wrong. I don't know. We'll send them over to Mike. We'll find out. Oh, that was dumb. That gravity gets me every time. Put that in a better place so I don't do that again here in 2 minutes. Velcro. Gaskets look like they were in pretty good shape. This engine's definitely been apart. More mouse bits. Dowels stayed in the block. Yeah, this was a good running motor. Yay, winning. The lifters look horrible. So we got a ring on it. Well, let's drain the oil, send our heads over to the machine shop, make sure that we can fit our big valves in them. That would be wonderful. We have our rods to take over as well. That way we can get our block back, set up our crank and new pistons on our rods, get our deck height so we can do some calculations. So, some news on the Capri project. I just recently found a fella down in Kentucky, which is a quick down and back for us. Sadly, he just crushed a 73, but he still has the hood. Car had, I mean, it was a complete car. He's like, yeah, I was going to make a race car out of it, but the floors and trunk floor were all rotted, so I didn't think it was worth anything, so I crushed it. I'm like, oh. Well, that's a shame, because I could have used like that whole car for what I'm doing. But he still has the hood, dash cluster, some pair of taillights, because clearly we need more taillights for this car, and some other things. So he's going to snap some pictures of the hood, send them to me. He said it was rust-free, but it is what it is. If it's usable and savable, I'm just going to give him money and bring it back, because it gives me a hood for the project that I can work on. While we are in limbo on two other Capris Mark 1s, one is in Texas, one is in Canada. The one in Canada we are definitely going to go get. We're just working out logistics on what we need to bring it back into the States. And it actually came from the States, so it went over to Canada. Now it's going to come back to the States. It's a 72 if I remember right. It was a pre-facelift car. But that might give me the entire front clip I need to put this car back together, or it might be what we use all the bits out of this car to bring this car back as a tribute car, I guess you would call it. I need to get this body, the curmudgeon Capri needs to go up on to a frame rack so I can take some measurements, make sure the body that's there is square, because when it was offered up to Norm back in the day, it was thought that the body was out of square due to how badly it got hammered. So those are all things that we're going to be crossing off our list to do. Hopefully we will have a parts car here, compressor. You wouldn't know it from watching the videos, but the compressor's actually running a lot less than it used to, because I ran all these airlines through the shop, so it's actually a lot quieter in the shop. Except for when I'm videoing. So he's just a little guy. The heads I pulled off this engine look great. They have been reconditioned. They are fresh. They've never been run since being reconditioned, so that's pretty cool. I am going to blow them apart and port them, so who knows, maybe I'll have to do something to them, but we'll figure that out as we go. Where was I? The Capri 2. So we have the Capri 2, and it's not a complete waste. We didn't spend a lot of money on it, and it has a bunch of mechanical parts inside of it that will help us move this project forward. It has a manual transmission, one-piece drive shaft. It should have a one-piece drive shaft in it. The rear axle won't work because the dimensions are different. The front nose obviously won't work, but I didn't know that when I got that. I was just happy to find a Capri when I found it, and the guy sold it to me for an extremely reasonable price, so it was worth going to get. We're going to pull the transmission out, make sure it's usable. That will be our transmission. Transmission cross member, if it fits or is modifiable, make an easy switch for that. Motor mounts, engine brackets, alternators, all that stuff is in that car. So great, I have all the bracketry to put everything on the engine that we're choosing to use. Works out great. Can't beat it for the price. We'll probably put that thing, that Mark II Capri, the 76, it will probably go up for sale as a roller when we are done picking our parts out of it. If somebody wants it, great, we'll send it down the line. If somebody doesn't want it, I don't know what its fate will be, but it is pretty rough as far as the floors are concerned. The floors are completely gone in it. The rockers are starting to be eaten up by Mother Nature, so it's a large project. Don't be fooled by what it looks like on camera. But with that, we're gonna have a run over to the machine shop, drop off some parts.
Drop off our brand new exhaust valves, intake valves. Look at that. These are actually larger than the stock ones, and are going to allow us to get a little bit better airflow. We've got our new piston ring set. That's a cast set. We also got from our Team Blitz folks. And we have a set of brand new TRW flat top high compression pistons. These are actually brand new. They don't look exactly brand new because they are old brand new. But they are NOS high compression 2.8 pistons. So we are at M&M, and we're going to drop these off for Mike so he can get the bore done to match these pistons and rings to our 2.8 block. And then we're going to bring that block back to measure deck height, and from there we can figure out exactly how much we can cut off the deck in order to get our compression exactly where we want it to be. Ideally, we wouldn't be able to run this on pump gas, but we're going to get kind of close to the very ragged edge of what we can do on pump gas. Then that also opens up conversations about camshafts and all that kind of stuff, which we need to figure that out very shortly as well, which we'll probably be going back to our guys at Blitz for, because they've already done all this stuff and they know most of this already. So more stuff from Norm. But first off, drop stuff off at M&M. Hey Mikey, I've got things.
This is our 2800. It's back from the machine shop. It has been roughed in for the new jugs. And these flat top pistons look really good. I actually just measured my deck clearance, basically the top of my piston to the top of the deck of the engine block, and I came up with 12 thou on both sides. That's pretty tight. Not a lot to remove, so I have a nice flat surface. A lot of really good little bits on this engine that I keep seeing as I'm going through it. Just good stuff. I mean, they recessed the threads into the below the surface of the deck, which means when you torque it, it's gonna have less distortion on the deck surface. So that's cool. Really probably should be torque plated either way, but it's not really a high torque application, and we're not putting boost to it, so it probably doesn't need that. And I doubt that we have a torque plate for one of these. It would be nice. But as it is, I have checked my main bearing clearances. I was lucky enough to get away with a stock crank, stock rod and main sizes. One of the engines we had ended up being good enough to allow me to just polish the crank and fit it with new standard bearings. Basically, I plastic gauge those bearings. We've got 0.0015, basically 15 thousandths of bearing clearance, which is loose by factory spec. But I'm pretty happy about that, because that means this thing should rev pretty well. And it's still within factory specification. If you're doing an all-out race motor, you would probably want it to be even looser than that, because at high RPM you're going to have high oil pressure. I'll show you real quick how piston depth to deck height is measured, because somebody might find that interesting. So when you're doing piston height, I like to measure on the pin, because you do have piston deflection. You want to find your zero, which my zero is just off from zero, but that's okay. You find your piston, and then you find your top dead center. And that is where you want to take your measurement. And then your reading is right around 12 thou. Maybe 13, something like that. That's your measurement. So we don't want to take any more than 12 thousandths off the top of this deck. Now that we know that, and we will know how much we actually remove, we'll be able to calculate our exact compression ratio so that we know what the heck we have under the hood. This thing, honestly, it just rolls over like butter. I don't have my thrust bearings in yet, but those will come soon enough. Oh yeah. Well, now that I've measured my my piston depth, it's time to take this all back apart. I'm going to do some oiling modifications to the oil passages, and then this all goes back to the machinist so that he can do the rest of his work and put cam bearings in it and all that jazz. So let's get this thing taken back apart. Wash my hands and I'll bag and tag my bearings. Looks really good. We're on the right track. So this is actually our alternator bracket off of the 2800 Ford Cologne motor. This This is not painted. This is the raw aluminum after it's media blasted in our wet blast cabinet. It's the thermostat housing, and the heater hose housing off the back of the thermostat. So that vapor hone really brings this stuff back to life. I'm really happy with that purchase so far. I have actually cleaned up quite a bit of stuff in that, so it's pretty neat tool to have. I'm getting ready to do the intake manifold because we do have that split quad 4-barrel intake for this, so we were really lucky to find one of those because those things are nearly unobtainium. So I'm marking where I take all my bearings out of because I've already plastic gauged those, so I want to put them back in knowing full well that they'll give me the same readings. They are probably identical to one another, but I'm going to be overly cautious and put them back in the place where I've already checked them at so that I don't have any problems. It'll be a quicker reassembly when I go back together as well. With that, the block needs to get some oil passages modified. I'm going to go through with drill bits and clean everything out, make sure that all my oil passages are clear. I may even open up the center tube because the center tube passages feed 2 rods where the outboard passages feed 1 rod, and so if we're holding this at high RPM for too long, you can oil starve the center 4 bearings. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm going to do it anyway because I do it on small block Chevys, and I think it'll probably benefit these guys too. Or maybe it'll blow up the first time I rev it. Who knows? But there's supposed to be a plug right there. Better remember that when we go to put it back together and make a mess. So I had the bright idea of drilling out my middle oil feeds to my crankshaft. And on this block, it ends up windowing the side of the block inside the where there's a piston relief. So I'll show that to you real quick. So you can see your oil passages are 1/4 inch. I opened up the inner passages to 5/16 of an inch because this oil passage feeds 1 rod, this oil passage feeds 2 rods, this oil passage feeds 2 rods, and this oil passage feeds 1 rod. But when I opened this up to 5/16, it ended up making a window right here and right here. So one way to overcome that would be to put some 5/16 outside diameter tube and sleeve it and epoxy that into the block, but then it defeats the purpose of everything I just did. I end up with the same oil passage. So the plan is going to be to drill it the next step up for my next piece of tube. So we're going to go from 5/16, which is what this is, to 3/8. And then we'll put a 3/8 sleeve in, epoxy that in. We'll stop our drill just past our window in the block, and then the new tube will be our oil supply to our bearings. Will it work? I don't know. We're going to find out. I do this a lot on small block Chevys, but the small block Chevys don't have the piston relief cut into it right where the oil passage is, so that's where the interference was. Ironically, I did this same drilling to the engine block that we had in the 1976 car because that block was completely trashed, and I went ahead and drilled it and checked it, and it went through fine. I did it to this one and I windowed both oil passages, so that's the luck I have. That's just the way it goes. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Differences in castings, differences in alignment of where the drill was at. So I'm going to go ahead and drill it the next size over, and I'm just going to step drill it up one size at a time to follow my path. I'm going to drill it about 2.5 inches deep into the block, which means it's not going all the way into the galley because the hole above that's already plenty big, but it'll allow me a stop for my tube, for my liner to stop at, and then I can stake the bottom of it so the tube doesn't come out when, you know, heat expansion and stuff. So that's what we're going to do. So that's the 5/16. It goes all the way through into the oil galley. Be a little less vicious on my drill bit here.
It's a horrible sound.
It's not great. Making my windows bigger.
Film that and send it to me.
It'll either get better or it'll get worse.
Yeah.
Now you can really see these windows. Oh yeah, I got a nice step. So my 5/16 goes into the bottom of the oil galley, but not through the top of the oil galley. The hole in the top of the oil galley goes to the feed the camshaft, and I don't want to open that up anymore. So those holes are done. I got to make my insert links, and then I will glue them into the block, seal them into the block. I'll stake them, and then they will be done. Well, we're going to call it quits here on this project. I'm going to make my inserts, glue them into the block, and then take this thing over to the machine shop for final fit and assembly and final machining. With that, have a great night, everybody. Click like, subscribe, leave us a comment below. Stay safe out there. Have a happy Turkey Day. We'll see you soon.